Welcome back to the Advanced Selling Podcast, the longest running sales training podcast history. I'm Bill Caskey.
I'm Bryan Neal here.
Take two. We
take two.
The audio wasn't right, but you know what? It wasn't Bryan's this time.
It wasn't. And I'm kind of proud of myself that I was noticing something wasn't right. And Bill was messing around with it. And, and I'm like, I at least had to say something. And then all of a sudden there was an issue.
So we got 19 minutes in. We're going to redo it because
that's not true
on quality. We got about 30 seconds in. So you just got back from European trip.
I did. Yeah. I went to, I got to go officiate one of the NFL London series games. The NFL is now a global brand, as we all know. So they're playing games outside the country. Refereed the Bills Jags game in London. Brand new stadium, brilliant stadium, Tottenham Hotspurs, right? Really great area. Stayed in a really cool place. Super fun. The energy for American football is really high in Europe, and it's really, really great. It's really awesome. But got the chance to go to Amsterdam ahead of the trip, just for a little. I'd never been. Last time we did this, we went to Paris, and this time, we want to go somewhere different with Amsterdam. What a great city!
Amsterdam. It is awesome,
isn't it awesome? And I've been one. We said this. We were sitting at this cafe. Because I've always said, I'm not really a big Europe guy.
Coffee shop?
Not a big Europe guy.
Coffee shop?
No, it wasn't a coffee shop. No, thank you for clarifying. No, it was just a little cafe with a bar. We kind of love Europe. It's great.
I do too.
Here's the problem. And this is an American problem, not a European problem. And every time I go there, I'm reminded that we need to pay attention to this. When Americans go to do anything service-oriented in anywhere else, basically in the world, we get so antsy, don't we? For service. So we sit down at this cafe. Everyone in the place is having a great time chilling. I'm sitting there looking around, rubbernecking. When's the guy going to come take our order? Where is he?
I know what I want.
And Steph's like, well, there's only two guys. I'm like, I don't care.
Staff up.
And it's like, oh
Where's
my God.
The owner? Can I have a word with the owner?
Seriously. Well, he is the owner. Exactly. It's he and his brother. It's like, I'm like, okay, they're not the problem. I'm the problem. The way that we're so wrapped up in that. And I'm like, man, people just sit and they just chill and they're so relaxed. It was really eye-opening to me. I'm thinking, how can I capture that back here? It was not. It's just, to me, the service thing is just an example of a lifestyle.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
And the Dutch just really have a great energy. They're just not chasing the moon, And there's live very happy, content, fulfilled lives. They're very proud people. I loved being there.
Yeah, my example of that is last night we went to see the Eagles in Indy.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, they were really good. And we walked in at Gainbridge, Kensico. We walked in and there was a line a mile long for merch line.
Yeah.
And Eagles always have some cool merch, always do. Tours, past tours, present tour. And looked at the line, and Jane and I started, oh my God, look at that line. It's going to take forever. And it's like, that's because people want what they have, and the line will move. And so she went up actually during the concert and stood in line. It was a lot shorter then. But yeah, we do. It was like, oh God, I'm not going to stand that line.
Yes.
What's Steak and Shake? I went to the Steak and Shake booth. It's like, it took 3 minutes and I was on edge.
Yeah, you're antsy. Right. Why is it taking so long? Right. Yeah. Well, because, the people that man those booths at Gainbridge, they're, work for a junior league soccer or for the band at Noblesville.
That's right.
And they're just moms and dads. And you're sitting like what's taking so long? I just ordered chicken wings and fries. Well, what are we doing? So it was great. Loved Amsterdam. That's good. Great.
You have to reorient yourself.
You do
that lifestyle,
you do. And just
and then when you do that, it's all cool. It's awesome,
really isn't it? It's so great.
It's the way to do it.
Just really relaxed. It really is. And the biking there. We didn't ride bikes at the recommendation of an Uber driver who said, if you've never ridden bikes here, you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Because everyone there rides a bike. Everyone. They have parking garages for bikes. And they ride fast, and they know the rules of the road, and no one wears a helmet. I noticed that too. Even though they're
you got to, as a pedestrian, you have to
watch, right? And you have to stay out of the bike lane. So love our friends in Amsterdam. Really fun. So anyway, topic. We
probably have a listener or two over there who will.
I think we do. I looked that up actually. I'm always curious about that. If I'm standing around, I wonder if any of these people, there was a big meeting at a bar next to this little cafe we were sitting by. And it just looked like a bunch of sales guys. And it was mostly men. There were like 3 women there. But so it just looked young, and they're at the bar at 6:00 on Thursday, whooping it up. And I told Steph, I'm like, I wonder if those are all salespeople. They just kind of seem like it. And then I'm like, I wonder if any of them listen to the Advanced Selling Podcast.
So you walked in and said, I'm Bryan Neal.
Real quick. Did anybody recognize this voice? Anybody recognize the voice? No? Okay, I'll go back to the cafe and be pissed at the owner for not bringing my drink fast enough.
All right. I've got a topic today, and it has to do with a program that I'm getting ready to do actually tomorrow. But it's a group of high achievers, and that you do too. Enjoy working with high achievers, people who have high upside potential in their business and who 100% can really make a difference. The challenge sometimes with high achievers is you don't want to teach them things they already know, like sales skills. Probably not a big thing for high achievers. I mean, they kind of already have that checked off. And so the question always is, well, what do you teach a group like that? And I was doing some research the other night. I came upon this quote, and I want to share the quote with you. You've probably heard it before, and then talk about what this quote means for sales professionals in general. Okay. So the quote is from Archimedes, who was a Greek philosopher, and he said the following: "Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I can move the world."
Jeez.
Give me a lever long enough and a fulcrum on which to place it, and I can move the world. So what he's saying there, I think, is that you can do anything if you have the right lever and the right leverage. And I'd like to go down the trail today with, how does a sales professional really leverage their talents, their wisdom, their skills? Because we've got a lot of people who listen. It's not their first rodeo either. They've been in the process and in the business for many years. Are there always skills to learn? Of course. Yeah. But I think a better through line would be, are you really leveraging the skills you already have, right, rather than looking to add to them and glob on more skills? And so that was my idea for a topic today. And if you say no, we'll just click.
No, I love it. Yeah. And so that the listeners know that when we start, we have a really quick, really in-depth prep session for hours and hours. And we were doing our in-depth hour-long prep session. Bill said, I have a topic. I don't want to tell you what it is. I want to do it live. That's right. So that was good. So love this topic. And I'm there's another video I want to add from someone that I saw in a minute, but I want to frame something up before I do that. And that is, I want to validate what I'm hearing you say, which is high achieving people do not have an ego that it prohibits them or inhibits them from working on basic fundamental skills over and over. They're never too good for something. That's true. Been my experience. That's true. And there is always a concern. I know the seat you're sitting in, the seat I sit in, there is always a concern. Like, is this too basic for this group? Like, they surely they already know. And to me, it's not necessarily about they already know how to do this. It's about revisiting and taking stock of the basics and saying, am I still doing these things? And do I have leverage over them in the way that I could have? Yeah. Right. So I think that's a thing that we sometimes as coaches have in our own heads that doesn't necessarily exist. People aren't sitting there with their arms crossed going, okay, teach me something new, Bill. They're learning, grow people naturally.
They are, And you're right about a basic skill that is unpracticed or underdeveloped is still useful to them.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
Yeah. And they may hear it differently today than they did 5 years ago. And because of that, it may expand and light bulbs may start to go off. Say, you know what, I was using it, but I've stopped. But the way you just described it, that's going to change everything. So I totally believe skills are useful, but I also think that, people who listen to this podcast already have pretty good skills. Probably they already have knowledge about the industry. And my question is always, okay, well, what are the categories of leverage that maybe you're not using? And by diving a little bit deeper into that, you as a listener can say, you know what, that's exactly right. I'm pretty good at X. I never use X.
Right. That's my favorite part of the quote that you put in there was the leverage that the fulcrum get. The lever and the fulcrum give leverage. And if you know anything about physics, which most people don't,
I don't.
I don't. Simply claiming that. That's what it says. You can play fulcrum games all day if you measure it all out. Short fulcrum makes it harder. If you go stand on a teeter-totter with your kids,
that's right.
Playground, we all know that. So I love the idea of finding points of leverage. I love asking continuing to ask more what seem to be difficult questions. For instance, let's just take income, because that's an obvious thing for sales people. And incomes are really high in the sales world these days. So someone may be making $500,000 or some people make $1 million, and it's like, that's what they do. So no matter where they are, though, the next level ask is going to take them to a place. And so our role then is to push them to the next thing, is explore, right? So I'm making $500,000, and they go, I really, my goal next year is 750. And he was a coach, like, why isn't your goal $1.5 million? Let's put our brain, what the hell, right?
Yeah.
If we were at 500, we aim for $1.5 million and land at $1 million, are you bummed out? But if you at 500 you aim for 750 and get 725, but you see what I mean?
Could have had $1 million. Yeah.
Could have had $1 million. Yeah. But you didn't ask for it, because your brain's going to answer the question it gets asked. So I think we've got to ask expansive questions that way, to say, given the state of conditions, what I know, my product and pricing and my commission plan, let me work on how I can get to a 7-figure income earning place.
But right? This is not a but, it's an and. The way to that, the path to that, is probably not more work. It's probably not more hours. It's probably not more calls, more out. It's probably not that, because that's the behavior. I think we in the West, and we generally salespeople, tend to equate results with behavior.
Yeah, right.
We say, if we want to go from 500 to 1,000 to 1 million, oh man, that's a lot more work. And then we think, well, is it? It is, if you're not leveraging anything, if you're not making use of the talents and skills you have and leveraging those in some way, then it's going to be a behavior game. I think we've got to get out of this old thinking that if I want to have more, I've got to do more.
Yes. I think that's in the question. The Reverend T.D. Jakes?
Yeah.
Okay. Phenomenal. Love him. Preaching and just speaking. I just love his energy. I saw a little video from him over the weekend, and the theme of the video was let him go. Let him go. He said, you got all these people who just aren't following the way and going down the life path that you want to go, and they're trying to leave, and you keep hanging on to them.
Yeah.
You keep them around you. Let them go. Let them go. Let them walk out the door. Let them walk out the door. And people don't. They keep them around. Like, well, I'm going to keep hanging out with them. Well, I feel bad for them because they're my friend, and we have all this stuff. He's like, hey, at some point you gotta let them go. So that brings me to this, is I think one of the first steps of this is you have to identify and then act on what you need to let go, which might be some existing clients.
Yep.
Might be something that you've been doing all along. It might be, things like this is little things. People say, well, I spend a lot of time on Salesforce admin. I put a lot of, I go, well, hire an assistant. Well, it comes out of my pocket. Like, exactly. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So write the check. So what are you giving up? I'm giving up some money to an administrative support person that helps me then go to this next level of stuff.
So see, that is an example, though, of time is an asset that you need to leverage. So you can do the inputting into Salesforce, or I can say, well, wait a minute, my time is worth more than $30 an hour or whatever that I would pay to have a person do that. My time might be worth $1,000 an hour. So can I trade $30 in cash for my time to get back? That's an example of leverage. If you don't think that way, you will think, well, I can do this myself. I'm not going to pay $30 an hour for somebody when I can do it. Well, yeah, but you're giving up too much. You're trading $1,000 an hour time for $30 an hour activities.
Yes.
In that example. And so time, to me, and I wrote a couple here down, I think time is one of those that by saying no to prospects who don't fit, that's a time saver.
Yes.
By employing or deploying some other asset that you have, like access to a virtual person to do some of these things that you're not good at, hate doing, but need to do still.
Yes. Yep.
That's an example of an asset you can leverage. I also think that relationships, now we don't usually think of relationships as points of leverage, but you and I know a lot of people that are either on our email lists or listeners to the podcast. And I know I don't leverage those relationships, not in terms of trying to get something out of them, but just deploying value to those relationships so that they refer you to somebody, or they say, you know what, we need to get back engaged with you. So relationships are another example of an asset that you have. Everybody in the listening audience here has relationships that you've lost track of.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, and I learned this from my coach, I've been working with David Meltzer for a couple of years, and he has taught me and he has done it, and I've watched him do it, the direct ask for help is the most underutilized thing ever. And I'm talking about like the direct ask. There's a woman who has a really, really, really popular big podcast now. And she basically sits on the floor and interviews famous people. Mark Cuban was just on with her. She started during COVID, I think.
Who is it?
What I'm talking about? I don't remember her name.
No,
she's on TikTok. She's got kind of a funny like air about her. She has these real famous people on, and she's like almost disinterested in them. But she was like a stay-at-home mom, not stay-at-home mom, but she was something. She was just like a person. But she put out to her people, I will pay you $300 if you can connect me to somebody famous that I can interview on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And it just started. And it might start in the smallest way, but each time she has one of those people, that person knows somebody else. And now she's got Mark Cuban on, and all these other famous people. And she's sitting on the floor interviewing Mark Cuban barefoot. That's
great.
So point being, she asked for direct help. And you just don't know. So same thing. Someone says, hey, I want to meet the CEO of Procter & Gamble. Instead of going, well, I'm going to do an email campaign and I'm going to do, and that's fine. Why don't you just go ask someone, hey, does anybody have something connection-wise close to try to get a meeting with the CEO of Procter & Gamble? And then you start, and you just don't know where that's going to go. But I think people are afraid to ask for that help directly.
So I was going down an entirely different road there with her. When we'll try to get her name for next episode, but to me, the asset there for her that she's leveraging is an interest in other people's success, and I'm assuming she's talking to other people because she wants to learn, or she wants her audience to learn something, or just entertain. Maybe it's just pure entertainment. But there's an interest there. The second part of leverage is she has a microphone and a computer, and she's able to connect in probably some kind of platform like StreamYard or Zoom, and she's able to connect with people digitally from her pajamas in her bedroom and do this. Well, she's leveraging the power of audio. She's leveraging the power of technology to do that. So she has two leverage points: interest in the genre of interview, and two, technology.
Yes.
Yeah. So
and all of it together. So
asking for help is a relationship thing. So so now she's got a third. She's leveraging her audience for even better, bigger, and better guests.
Yes. And she started in 23. She's 25 years old, and she just started putting this out there. She has this kind of deadpan character. She always did, she said. So she took that person to the podcast, like a deadpan, dry humor character.
So she got talent. So she's leveraging her talent. Her deadpan talent is unique, and it's hers, and nobody can replicate it. And you and I would try that, and it would fall flat. But she's taken a lot of things that are unique to her.
Yes.
Some are unique to her. Some, like technology, is not unique to her. But she still had to say, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to invest in a microphone and a platform and a whatever. So that's where I'd like our listeners to think about today is, what do you have in front of you? Maybe you consider it an asset. Maybe it's your customer list. Maybe it's an email list that you've created over time, but you email them once every 6 months. Well,
100%.
That's an asset. You're just not leveraging. You're not using that. So I'd like for listeners to think about that.
And every one of these, you see these stories like hers. Bobby Althoff is her. I don't know how you say that. Althoff. Started posting content on TikTok in 2021. And then 2023 started new comedic videos, and she does these celebrity interviews. She said Meghan Markle, Dua Lipa. It's like, and this is like 3 years ago. She's 25 years old and starts. That's what people don't get. They think, well, that's, she just started, and she's doing exactly what you're saying, Bill. She's leveraging all the assets around her in the best way possible.
Yeah.
The technology, her own skills. I mean, she's got some humor talent there. She's asking for help, and she's just doing it. It's so great.
So maybe one way that our listeners can start to think about this is just start to make a list or do a pie chart of what are those assets that you have. Some are going to be more valuable than others.
Yes.
But regardless, just start to list those out and say, what are my assets, whether it's skills, interests, technology, customer list, know-how. A lot of our listeners have enormous know-how in their professions. Are you leveraging that, or are you keeping it to yourself? And this gets back to, are you actually creating content that puts on display that know-how? Or does a person have to pay you for that know-how?
Yes.
And so I think there's a great deal of potential here if we just pull focus a little bit on ourselves. And it's hard to do. It's hard to look at ourselves because we're looking through our eyes, not looking at ourselves. But this would be a good exercise to go through.
I think it's great. And for salespeople, the gift and the problem of this is this new thing is there right there for you. But when it starts to feel scary or nervous or fearful, you default to old things, which is making more calls.
That's right.
Doing more of what you used to get you where you want. And that's a limiting thing. That will limit you for sure. Got to let that stuff go.
So can we say then that if you want to radically improve your income in 2024, one of the master keys there is better use of better leverage of your current assets rather than saying, oh, I need to learn how to do this, or I need to get a better computer. You already got a phone. That's probably good technology.
Yes.
So I think that if we look at the journey from where we are to where we want to be, make sure in that journey somewhere, the how am I going to get there is that asset leverage is a part of that.
100%. Yes. And and it's the asset leverage, not the skill to gain.
That's right.
That's the difference here. Because everyone's like, I'm going to learn how to edit my own videos next year. I'm going to learn how to do a podcast. That's fine. More leverage though is leverage what you've already got. Right.
That's
right. Good at what you look.
That's right.
That's a good
one. Your example of the virtual assistant or somebody to input Salesforce is a perfect example of that. We have to get out of this trading our time for low dollars. We're going to trade our time for dollars at some point because we're working and we're generating revenue and income from that. But you have to be mindful of, well, I'm trading these 5 hours and I could hire somebody for $100. That's a good trade
every time. Yeah. You have to think that way. And then you have to do it and release it and let it go and do that, release that money. And it will lead you to bigger things. It always does.
And then you'll say, well, you know what? That works fine. Sure, what else I need? I need this too. I wonder if this person could do that. No, somebody else does. That's okay.
That's it.
Good one. If you want to hear more about the Insider, we've got 2 great sessions coming up in November and December. And if you'll go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/insider, got a good group, have had some really good sessions over the last several months. So we want to make sure you get access to that. It's $47 a month. I'll just tell you the price right up front. It's very, hopefully it's good value because you get an hour and a half of training every month, coaching from me and the team. And I'd like to see you in there. So advancedsellingpodcast.com/insider.
Best deal going, guaranteed.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.